What happens when two of the most chaotic characters in Gotham come together? In Joker Folie À Deux, Joaquin Phoenix Joker is back, but this time he's joined by Lady Gaga's Harley Quinn in what promises to be a dark musical journey. We're diving into the intense performances, the film's origins, and the madness that unfolds. Without giving away any spoilers, but will this sequel outshine the original or descend into madness? Does the sequel ruin the legacy of the first film? Stick around for my answers, final thoughts, and score.
Saw Joker when I saw you.
The whole world smiled.
The original 2019 Joker film was meant to be a standalone film under the Warner Bros. DC Black label, featuring darker, experimental content separate from the DCEU. Despite this, Joaquin Phoenix and director Todd Phillips began considering a sequel early on. Phoenix even envisioned the musical concept for the follow-up where his character would perform on stage. After the original film grossed over $1 billion, ideas for a sequel, including a Broadway show, were explored. Phillips remained uninterested in a typical sequel focusing on Joker's rise as a crime lord, instead aiming to explore how Arthur Fleck's breakdown captivated Gotham citizens. The duo decided to develop a musical incorporating Phoenix's idea of a female Joker and eventually involving Harley Quinn, portrayed by Lady Gaga. By June 2022, the sequel, Joker Folie À Deux, was confirmed with Phillips and Scott Silver as writers. The film, a DC Elseworlds project, will feature unconventional musical numbers where songs convey Arthur and Harley's emotions rather than traditional performances. Phillips aimed for a raw, unstable musical style with songs expressing the character's turmoil. Lady Gaga described her unique approach to singing as Harley shredding technical control to inhabit the character. The film will also open with a Looney Tunes-inspired animation sequence, followed by darker scenes like prison riots and courtroom dramas, blending violence and musical elements in a distinctive narrative. Principal photography for the Joker Folie À Deux began on December 10, 2022, with Todd Phillips sharing a first-look image on his Instagram and Lawrence Sher returning as the cinematographer. Sher drew visual inspiration from Francis Ford Coppola's One from the Heart 1982 film. Exterior scenes were filmed in New York City and Los Angeles by March 2023. Lady Gaga filmed outside the New York County Courthouse, leading to confusion with Trump's real-life indictment. Arkham Asylum scenes were shot in an abandoned New York Jersey hospital, and additional filming took place in the Bronx's Joker Stairs. Filming wrapped up on April 5th, 2023, with the entire movie shot using IMAX certified digital cameras. Quick side note, when I was doing my research for this film, I was completely taken off guard when I found out that it was Joaquin Phoenix who was mainly pushing for the idea of a sequel and not Warner Brothers. Even Todd Phillips, the director, only entertained the idea of a sequel because of Phoenix, and it was Phoenix's idea to add the musical elements to the sequel due to a dream he had of his portrayal of the Joker dancing and performing musical notes on stage. Even before the movie wrapped, he said that he wasn't ready to let the characters go, which is shocking to me as well because Folie À Deux is the first sequel Phoenix has ever done in his entire career. The Joker character must have really spoken to him in a profound way. I'm not sure whether to be happy for him or concerned. 2 years after the descent into madness, Arthur Fleck, now a permanent resident of Arkham State Hospital, begins to lose his grip on reality entirely. His mind fractures further when he meets Lee Quinzel, a fellow inmate with a dangerously vibrant delusion. Together they create their own twisted musical world where the chaotic love story unfolds through song and dance. But what makes this connection unique is that to them, the outside world starts fading away. Everything beyond the walls of Arkham becomes irrelevant. As they spiral deeper into their shared insanity, their actions start unintentionally inspiring a violent anarchist movement outside of the asylum. While Arthur's followers plan to break him free, the real question becomes, does Arthur even want to return to the world that once rejected him? Or has he found freedom with in his own mind alongside Lee. The film stars Joaquin Phoenix as the titular character Arthur Fleck, aka the Joker, Lady Gaga as Harleen, Lee Quinzel, aka Harley Quinn, Brandon Gleeson as Jackie Sullivan, Catherine Keener as Marianne Stewart, Zazie Beetz as Sophia Dumont, with supporting actors Harvey Lottie as Harvey Dent, Steve Coogan as Patty Myers, with Lee Gill and Sharon Washington returning as Gary Puddles and Arthur's social worker. Zazie Beetz as Sophie Dumont is a character we remember from the previous Joker film. Dumont was the woman Arthur had imagined a relationship with. While she's listed as a supporting cast member, Beetz's time on camera is more of a cameo appearance. I don't have much to say about her performance, good or bad. Harry Lottie plays Harvey Dent, the newly elected assistant district attorney who aims to bring Arthur to justice. Lottie created his own backstory for the character, portraying Dent as someone driven by ambition in an era of televised trials, willing to use Arthur's trial for personal gain. To prepare, Lottie avoided watching previous portrayals of Dent by Billy D. Williams, Tommy Lee Jones, Aaron Eckhart, William Shatner. Though his character is a courtroom showman, Lottie does not sing in the film and even said he was relieved not to perform in front of Lady Gaga. I believe this is the first film I've ever seen of actor Lottie, and I think his performance as Harvey Dent was fair for the most part. Catherine Keener as Marianne Stewart plays Arthur Fleck's lawyer. Marianne is like most lawyers with high-profile clients, strategic, assertive, analytical, willing to do whatever it takes to make sure Arthur is declared insane. Brenda Gleeson as Jackie Sullivan is a correctional officer in Arkham Asylum who almost comes across as a fatherly figure to Arthur throughout the film. He appears to really look out for him. However, there's a scene that happens very early on between Sullivan and Arthur where Sullivan has to remind Arthur of the true dynamics of their relationship. I would ultimately describe Jackie Sullivan as fair but firm, at least in the first act going into the second. Lady Gaga as Harley Quinn, Lee Quinzel, is a patient in Arkham Asylum who connects and starts a relationship with Joker relatively quickly in the film. This particular version of Harley is manipulative but more level-headed than what most fans may be used to seeing. Personally, I had to go into the film with the mindset that I'm not watching Lady Gaga as the singer. I'm watching Lady Gaga, the actress who just so happens to be singing in the film. On the flip side, I also had to remind myself that this theatrical version of Harley Quinn is supposed to be different from the comic book version of her that was carried over from her television debut back in 1992. However, I believe that the lack of Harley Quinn's usual hijinks made the character a bit bland, but I think Gaga did a great job with the role that the director asked of her. Joaquin Phoenix as Arthur Fleck is a somewhat different version of the character we saw in the original film. In Folie À Deux, the Joker seems more quote-unquote clear-headed, far more accepting of who he is as a mentally unstable person. He also seems happier, and that could very well be due to his newfound relationship with Harley Quinn. While watching the film, I felt that he was extremely grateful for his newfound cult following, which really lifted him as their anti-hero in the last film and carried over into this one. He may not have even been that popular in Arkham at the beginning of the film, but once you get into the middle of the second act leading into the third, you can tell that the inmates were really on his side. Heck, even I started to feel empathy for the Joker. From the first film to the second, anyone with more authority or power to help Arthur seemed keen on abusing that power, and Arthur understands this as someone battling mental disorders. You understand why he developed this nihilistic persona based on how he's treated, and you begin to feel guilty about rooting for him. Based on what I saw, I say all these actors did a great job. Let's keep these guys employed. The writing of the film was interesting. As it pertains to the two main characters, I could feel the chemistry between Joaquin Phoenix and Lady Gaga, but I didn't really feel the chemistry between the Joker and Harley Quinn. Harley's character seemed as if she was written just as much as a supporting character as anyone else in the film, which concerned me because she was supposed to be a main character, or at least that's how it was presented to the audience. Most of the writing seemed dedicated to the musical performances, which we'll get into later. In the beginning, the dialogue was minimal. If I had to describe the dialogue outside of the singing, especially in the first act, it felt silent. There wasn't a lot of effort to put into the dialogue throughout the film, in my opinion. I believe most of the writing went into crafting the scenes, which I thought was fine overall. The last movie I saw from director Todd Phillips was the original Joker movie of 2019, He's a great director. I believe Folie À Deux was directed very well. He's a visionary. To me, the film felt very innovative and creative. My biggest critique is that the ending felt a bit anticlimactic. I would have liked to have seen a better ending, but the third act overall was well done. Phillips really took a chance by adding musical elements to the film. I was one of the main people who didn't like hearing that Joker Part 2 was getting a musical treatment. But I backed off Phillips when I found out that it was Joaquin Phoenix who was pushing for that angle. He filmed it solely on IMAX cameras, and the only other filmmaker I've seen do IMAX cameras justice is the genius that is Christopher Nolan. So if nothing else, Phillips is in good company. The best of the best, in my opinion. The film is visually stunning. While there weren't any scenes that made me want to visit a location I saw, I mean, come on. We're talking about prisons, solitary confinement cells, courtrooms, and protests outside the courtrooms. None of which of those places I want to be near. None of that is appealing, okay? I have to give Lawrence Sher his props. I was excited to see him return from the previous Joker film. He understands feng shui, how to impose the best lighting, and has a solid grasp on color psychology. It was great overall. Working side by side with Phillips, who ultimately has to approve of the vision, I believe they had a great collaborative relationship. While I didn't like the pacing of the film, it felt too slow throughout. It was consistent, which is something I always look for. The scenes that had a transition from the non-musical parts to the musical parts were well blended, but most of the non-musical scenes had big cutaway moments except for a few of the musical numbers. Speaking of music, let's talk about it. Because the film is part musical, it was important that it lived up to what it was supposed to give for that genre, and I believe it did for the most part. The music helped convey the feelings of the Joker and Harley Quinn. I will say that the musical numbers were very non-traditional compared to what you would expect from a typical musical. I didn't believe the musical or performances were overbearing at all, but I do feel there were some moments where the music felt like filler for the scenes and wasn't necessary. As for the sound outside of the music, I thought it was well done. Without giving too much away, there is an explosion scene in the film, and you get the distorted sound one would experience in real life after such an event. Joker, Folie À Deux delves into dark themes of mental illness, identity, and societal rejection. It also explores how society often turns serious situations into spectacles for entertainment. In the film, you see how the amusement of other people's misery is put on display for the masses to enjoy. I have searched far and wide, and as far as I can tell, Joker Folie À Deux is the first musical psychological thriller in existence. The closest comparisons I could find were Phantom of the Paradise, 1974, Sweeney Todd, The Demon Barber of Fleet Street from 2007, and Repo, The Genetic Opera from 2008. These films incorporate musical elements to complement the scary elements of their respective stories, but none are classified as musical psychological thrillers. I haven't watched any musicals this year, so I don't have any recent to compare it to. If I were to compare it to the last psychological thriller I saw this year, it would technically be Blink Twice, but that's apples to oranges. When it comes to films with dual genres, I always ask myself, was the film executed well within its genres? For Folie À Deux, I'd say yes. The musical elements were there and the psychological thriller elements were there, and they were blended in a way I never thought could complement each other, but they did. I really enjoyed this film. For it to be a first of its kind type of movie, I'm impressed. I love unorthodox, out-of-the-box experimental films like this one. The film felt like it was done in an art house style, just with a big budget behind it. The film is great to me. I didn't necessarily like the ending, as I mentioned in the direction section, but I truly enjoyed it overall. However, I won't lie, it's an acquired taste. The film won't be for everyone, and that's okay. For me, I judge films based on how they're presented to me. Joker Folie À Deux was released by itself this week with no competition. I mean, realistically, who wanted to compete with the Joker, right? There's no question in my mind that Folie À Deux will win the box office this weekend. The first film grossed well over $1 billion. Will the sequel achieve the same outcome? It's definitely a possibility, but only time will tell. I believe the film deserves to have another sequel. Let's aim for 3 films to round out this chapter of the Joker in this timeline. Movies that have sequels but stop at number 2 and don't round off with the 3rd film always irks my nerves. For the plot, I give it a 7 out of 10. For characters and performances, I give it an 8 out of 10. For direction, I give it a 9 out of 10. For cinematography and visuals, an 8.5 out of 10. For sound and music, an 8.5 out of 10. For writing and dialogue, a 7.5 out of 10. For pacing and editing, I give it an 8 out of 10. For themes and messages, a 9 out of 10. For emotional impact, a 9 out of 10. For overall enjoyment, a 9 out of 10. In total, I give Joker Folie À Deux an 8.5 out of 10. That concludes my review of Joker Folie À Deux. Please tell me what you think about it down below by leaving a comment and liking the video. Also, if you would like to see more Batman adjacent content, please make sure to subscribe because I review The Penguin starring Colin Farrell on HBO Max every single week. If you're interested in non-Batman adjacent content, I also review a new movie every single week. So there's something for everyone here. Until next time, this is the Film Scout signing off. Peace.